Okay, one more little snippet from my weekend I've just had with Rachel Elnaugh in Derbyshire in England. And now it's quite funny actually, because I had this 3 times over the weekend. I had someone approach me and say, I recognise you, I know you from somewhere. And the one that I'm going to tell you about just now actually was in the kitchen, the party that was in the kitchen. And we eventually worked out, he couldn't work out where he'd known me from, and he was thinking, because as I said, I've spoken around the world on the internet marketing platform, etc. And eventually he clicked with it and he said, yes, I know where it is. And it turned out in 2013, and it just so happened that Facebook reminded me that the weekend just past there was exactly 3 years to the date that I toured the UK with an astronaut. So one of my friends is a self-made multi-millionaire, and part of his choice of life was to become an astronaut. So he paid out of his own pocket $30 million to become an astronaut. And I was the privileged one who was invited to tour the UK with him. And part of that, it just so happened we were in Manchester, which is where this guy had been in the audience, and I met him again 3 years later, as it transpired, at the weekend there. And I just found it quite amusing actually, because I had a number of people asking me how I knew Rachel. For example, Rachel was one of the original Dragon's Den millionaires who was on the first TV series, so TV personalities. And I don't actually know when that started. I think it was around about 2003 or thereabouts. And in 2004 actually I was on stage with Duncan Bannatyne and Simon Woodruff, both from the original series of Dragon's Den as well. And that event was called Millionaire Minds, so that was in London. I've spoken with them, that was many years ago now. And Rachel and I actually only just met last year. Actually, we were both speaking at another event in Nottingham last year, and obviously we've just communicated irregularly since then. But it just so happens she's just launched her book, which has actually just come out today. There was supposed to be a book launch at the weekend. It was the only book launch I've been to, probably ever will be to, book launch with no books, because the books didn't turn up, the courier didn't arrive in time, but they arrived today. And it's called Prosperity. So unfortunately I'm telling you this, and there's none for sale, you can't buy any. But I did actually, I was one of her founders that supported it in the first instance when she was about to write it. She hadn't even written it yet, and she put something on crowdfunding and I supported it there, as you do with some friends. So anyway, there's no particular lesson in that other than the ripples that happen, and it's quite fascinating. We never know some action that may have happened or taken part. And especially if you've gone through some really dark periods, because Rachel, for example, will happily tell you now, she is so authentic. She doesn't hide her dark periods that she's been through since then. And it's only in hindsight that you can reflect back and say, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today. And that's really quite intriguing, isn't it? I can tell you so many of my own stories as to how I ended up doing that, and yet it was because of a dark period that seemed to be the end of life as we know it. It was like, oh shit, I can't get any worse than this. And because of that, I had to effectively get rid of everything and start afresh. And that fresh track ended up taking me to somewhere totally different. And those, I mean, thank goodness we don't have a crystal ball to see where life is going to take us. Because it's only in hindsight sometimes that you can look back and go, wow, so that bad event, whatever that might have been that I classified as bad, that's a judgment, isn't it? If that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be here today to share this. Wow. So we don't know where those ripple effects are, and I don't know if it was all written in the stars before we were born. We can only surmise, we can only guess, but how fascinating would it be if that was the case, and amazing if we only discovered that after we leave our physical body, we go back to being stardust again and we realise, wow, I didn't want, I agreed before I was born, before I was brought onto this planet, that I didn't want to just have anything and everything I wanted and wished for and thought about instantaneously. I agreed before I was born that I wanted challenges. I wanted to, don't just think about something and it happens. There's got to be that period of pregnancy, if you like, that period where it takes time to evolve, and along the route I will be given challenges, and I want those challenges. I want to be, maybe we agreed to that before we were born, that I want to be in the physical form, I want to have challenges, I want to rise above it. And when I'm no longer in physical form, then I could be stardust or starlight or whatever you want to call it, and I can have heaven, I can have hell, I can have instantaneously, I could be anywhere, omnipresent, omnidirectional, omnitime. It's quite fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going off on another tangent here. I just wanted to say, I think today's lesson really is just thinking about, or not even having to do anything about it, but just being aware, I guess, of the ripple effects, and appreciating that even if you are in a dark time just now, that whole change of having to clear out the closet, maybe sell the house, clear out the bank accounts, whatever it might be, clear out your life from something to make space for the next thing. Okay? Don't just clutter all your cupboards and wardrobes and drawers and sheds with everything. There's no space for anything new to come in until you clear some of it out. And life is so gracious, it's given us that. Enjoy.